Hi, welcome everybody to today's talk show, where we'll be speaking about taking an idea to reality. I'm Rupam, an Intel software innovator and entrepreneur for last 13 years, hacker, and so. So each one of us has some idea. uh, Everybody try to solve certain problems in some ways, and few of us go on to make some prototype, some hardware realization of that idea. Some of these ideas potentially has the capability of changing the world, but they don't really see the day of the light because often people have a notion that taking a hardware idea to reality is extremely difficult. So in this talk, we'll try to understand what is the process of taking your idea or probably the prototype that you build to the market. So yeah. Now, in today's talk, I'm going to share the process of how you can basically take your prototype into a product. So let's look at it. Now, in this talk, I'm going to share our amazing journey of how we build a paper idea and how we took it to the market with the help of amazing set of people. And I'll be basically telling you the story of our project called Lifers. And we try to share my experiences, the challenges that we faced, and the steps that we followed to be where we are today. Now, speaking in the terms, what we'll be doing today is I'll be showing you the process of taking such kind of prototypes. Okay, this is our basically first prototype that we have. So we are going to cover today how you can take such prototypes into basically a full-fledged product like this. So I'm going to cover this whole journey of taking this idea to a full-fledged product that you can actually give it to the people. So let's get started into understanding what is our what is the overall process, and then I'll go one by one and take those agendas one after the other. So if you're interested in taking your idea to the market, whoever you are, there are certain processes, right? Now, for the case of hardware, for the case of software startup, or for the case of software idea, with all the tools, it's quite easy to build up a proof of concept very early, right? You can mock the screens also, even if it is not a functionality. You have different screen mocking capabilities. You can mock the screen and you can really present your idea in a way that people can understand. But if it is a hardware concept, if it is a hardware idea, do trust me that irrespective of the number of block diagrams you make or probably the concept you tell, unless and until you have something on your hand, a working model in your hand, however ugly that might be, it doesn't actually work. So you got to build your proof of concept. Then you got to make many prototypes, you got to show off to people, and then if you are basically attending this conference, I'd assume that you are associated with IoT. Any hardware startup definitely have a software stack associated with it, so you got to focus on building the software as an until. Obviously, if you are working on something like Doorbell, which I do not think you are working on. And then you have to validate your idea. You got to reach to people whom you think this idea is for. You got to give it to them. You got to make them use it. And then you have to iterate this whole process. Once you are confident that there are enough number of people, there are enough takers for your idea, you can actually plan for the next step, which is the production, which starts with PCB, fundraising, fabrication, casing design, packaging, and so many other things. So let's get started one by one. Now, let's focus on why it is so important to build early proof of concept. Now, our device, LifeUs, is basically a heart monitoring device. It's a single lead ECG that gives you non-invasive blood sugar, blood pressure, pulse, hypertension, and many other things, along with a cloud-based disease diagnosis. Now let's face it, with Arduino and all the other modules available, making a device that takes your heart signal is just a child play. Even a class 10 student with a bit of hardware knowledge can use jumper wires, plug in them, and can enjoy that, right? So when we started, we built our first prototype, which you can see over here. It's quite ugly, but it just worked. And then if you are a hardware startup, you really do not know what works best. So it's always good that you start building various prototypes, all the possible things that you can do. As you can see, we did a prototype with small OLED display. Then we did a prototype with a large LED display. We did a prototype without any display. We did a prototype with a small form factor. We did a display with a pulse. We did a prototype without a pulse, and so and so. Now the essence is, unless and until you have various prototypes, you never know what works. So it's always a good idea to build various prototypes. And now, because you are a hacker or a maker and you have built the prototype, you got to show it off to people, right? Now, nobody, you never know whether there is actually a market for your product or not, and whether your product is solving a real purpose or not. Look, we as enthusiast makers, when we start the process, we know that we are super excited, right? We become super excited with what we do, and obviously most of the times, we feel quite excited. We feel like we are Albert Einstein and stuff like that, and we really think that this is something that nobody has ever made it. Look, making a cool project isn't the only part of the whole story, right? The idea is a small part, and then building the first proof of concept is the next part. But you've got to be definitely knowing whether there are takers for that or not. Many makers that I've made, I found them really reluctant. They don't want to meet people with their ugly looking hardware. Okay, but look, there are 100% people in this world who has got an idea. But there are only about 10% people who can make a proof of concept with this idea. So you are already ahead of the rest of the 90%. So you are almost like a cream group. So never hesitate to go and speak to people with an idea, because in all possibility, even this kind of a box that you are going to show them, even there are possibility that most of them haven't seen this box. And if it works, it's quite good. So it's always better that you should go and speak with people, you should meet people and start giving demo of your idea. Now, when we made our first hard device, we thought that it's cool. We can build something really cool, some ECG device, it can do some analytics, but whether there was a taker or not. So we started giving demo to each and every opportunity that we could find. You can see here, I went to a health conference with a prototype with literally this prototype that I had demoed. Okay, so I went to the conference, and then we started attending hackathons, conferences. We presented it to people. We won quite a few hackathons. In fact, we won ICICI hackathon this year. We won HDFC Life Health Challenge, and then we were top 5 in own hackathon. So yes, you never really know whether there are takers of this or not. And once you start speaking with the people, trust me, they never laugh at your ugly looking prototype, but rather they are very happy to see that you are trying to make something. Now, once you continue this process of creating your prototype and then demonstrating, creating your prototype, demonstrating, what happens is you get a feel whether there is a market or not, and what kind of market you basically have. Once you have this feel, you confidently can plan for the next thing. Now, assume that after meeting too many people, you find out that there is definitely a market and your product can solve the market. It's now the time to go back to the third step, which is build your software stack. Now, however ugly looking device you might be having, remember, most of the IoT devices or hardware devices, it's the user experience, it's the software that your people will be caring about. And whether you are a hardware developer or whoever you are, you basically have to put a lot of effort to pull out a good software stack. Again, it's not like building a website or a B2B product. If you look at our effort, we started with building, we started working with Wi-Fi as our protocol stack. So our initial software was based on Wi-Fi, and then we shifted to BLE. Then we had to change our entire protocol stack, made changes in the Arduino, Android front end and stuff like that. And then when we gave it to people, we went to a lot of doctors, we gave them early stage prototypes, and you'd be astonished how happy they were to have that device of ours. And you can look at the number of iterations we have done. We pulled the logos at the back, monochrome logos, multicolor logos, top, bottom. So there were various iterations that we did. Now, when you are building the software stack, it's very important that you take user into account. So you got to be thinking about a protocol that can seamlessly connect your end user with your devices and which makes your device better. And you have to continue this process. And now you know that, yes, with the combination of your software and with the combination of your hardware, you actually have something to go for it. Now, this is the next big leap that you'll be taking. Now, you'll be leaving the world of POCs. So, so you now have a software, working software. It doesn't have to be really a Facebook-like software, but a working, nice software that people can easily use if you give them, and you have the confidence that there are takers, right? Now you are going to leave the world of POCs, which you have been struck for so long, and now you'll be going for something called PCB design, right? See, ultimately, whether you use this module, this kind of a module or not, all you have to do is ultimately you have to put everything into a single PCB like this. So your ultimate goal is to take your modules, which are like this, which is ugly, which are modular. Obviously, you can see how ugly this is. These are modular, into something which is where each of the components are there in a single PCB. So this is what basically you are looking for. And this step, trust me, is a very, very, very important step. Look carefully. In today's world, there is no dearth of processors and prototype building platform. You have Intel Edition, you have Arctic, you have Raspberry Pi, Arduino, so and so. It's the time when anybody literally can build a hardware product, but not everybody can take that product into this PCB, right? Now, if you want to take your product to this level, you require some planning. Look, because you have decided that now it's time to leave your world of POCs and go into the world of product, you potentially know possibly know your customer base. You have a rough idea about what is the price that your customers are ready to pay for your product. Based on that, you have to decide what performance can we offer, what is the best thing that can be added with our software platform, what is the best solution, and you have to select your microcontroller very, very carefully, whether it is ATmeg, whether it is STM32, whether it is Intel Edition. You got to be very, very particular about that. And that's why I told that create several prototypes with several different platforms. So you know actually what is the cost. Once you do that step with the modules, you know what is their cost, what is their form factor, what is their performance factor, because trust me, this step is little costly and this step is time consuming. Once you make a mistake in this step, that is going to cost you very, very badly in terms of both time as well as money. So a good hardware startup or a intelligent hardware startup has to be something who can get it right or nearly right at the first go. Let's see what is that process. Let's get back into our PPT again and see what is that process. Right, so we are into plan for PCB step. Now, there are two possibilities. Either you are a great hardware developer, and if you are a great hardware developer, possibly you'd not be listening to this talk because you'd already be knowing the process. Or because you are listening to this talk, and assume that you are somebody who has done some POCs but are reluctant to go to take it to the next market. So assume that though you can work with Arduino, your skills with the PCBs are minimum. You can do two things. You can go around and find a friend, find a teammate who is good with that. Even then, I suggest you that you always take a professional support for this step. This is the most important step. People who have been in the industry for so long, they can guide you in a much better way than if you take this decision by all of your own. Now, the PCB design has to come in various stages. Number one, you have to validate your entire module by converting it into a breadboard module. You got to see whether your module is working in breadboard with independent component or not. Having tested it on the breadboard, you have to basically build something called a schematic. So all your modules are going to be decoded in individual modules, and you should have something that combines them to get a single PCB. This is the overall view of the PCB. You produce the 3D view of the top and the bottom with all the dimensions. So you'd be knowing the form factor, what you want to achieve. So you'd be knowing the power circuit and everything. I'd suggest you that if you are on and around in India or in any place, India is a place where you can get these things done in a much affordable way. A lot of hardware startup has the notion that if you go to Shenzhen, you get the things done. But I'd never recommend you to go to Shenzhen at that early stage of your startup. It's good that you find out somebody from your local place who is good with this hardware. You have to identify them, meet many people. You can Google search them. I have given a couple of partners that I've worked with. Now, if you're not sure of this hardware, there is one more place called HW Trade. Just note it down, HW Trade. This is a website that links the hardware startup with with the vendors, mainly Chinese vendors. Now, this is the most amazing website and must be website for any hardware startup. You got to be logging to this website and you got to be checking out the solutions. You got to be presenting your project, and some project manager will assign somebody and people will be giving you the codes. They'll be suggesting you, and the suggestions will be obviously free. For instance, when we were working, we had Arduino in mind because obviously that's cheap, that's easy. After getting into this website, the project managers helped us to get connected with a group called ST Microcontrollers, and we really never looked back. We migrated our entire solution into HW Trek platform. So if you do not have any support system who can guide you, you can get into HW Trek. Even if you have, it's always a good choice to get yourself registered, your project registered over here. Don't worry about somebody stealing your idea at this stage, because with all these modules, people probably, anybody probably with money can build their hardware. So forget about somebody stealing your idea, which is obviously very high in all of our mind always. Forget about that. Get yourself registered. Talk about your idea to people. It's at the end the value that you create around your product that's going to give you the customer and your product valuation. It's not your idea really. So to summarize, once you have your customer validation, and if you want to go for the PCB, take a good support, take somebody's support. Don't try to do it by yourself, because any mistake you make at this stage is going to cost you a lot of time and money. And then you got to be building this whole stuff. Once you do this, the next step is to go for the production, right? PCB production. So how you are going to go for it? PCB production. Let's see, what is the process? So let's see, what is the process of going for PCB production? Now, once you have this design, you have to validate it, right? See, cost of one PCB is almost same as 10 PCBs if you're making it in this fashion. So it's always better that you go for at least 10 PCBs. I always prefer that you go for 10 PCBs. Okay, I'm getting some questions. I'll be definitely picking up these questions at the end of the talk. Keep your questions coming in, by the way. I'll try to pick up these questions, and I'm going to give you the answer individually, and I'm going to write the answer over here, but keep your questions coming in. So to talk about this more, now you have your PCB design, right? You have to plan for the fabrication. Irrespective of where you are, people are going to tell you that go to Shenzhen, get them done. Never. That's the worst idea you can have at this stage, right? That's the worst idea you can have at this stage, I'll tell you. Don't jump into Shenzhen story at this moment, right? You got to be finding out somebody who can get you this PCBs locally. And what I'm going to suggest you is, if you are around India, or even if you are not in India, we'll go to the PPT screen again. The best part is, when you are planning for small PCBs, you can go for a company called PCB Power. They are a Gujarat, India-based company. It's called PCB Power, right? Now, they are the best in India, irrespective of what people says you, what people tells you. Don't listen to anybody. Once you've got your design, give this design file to PCB Power. They are going to deliver you your assembled PCB greatly. Now, there is also some bits and parts of this story. Once you give it to somebody like PCB Power, they'll rarely be they'll rarely be testing them, right? So initially, once you made these PCBs, there are chances that you have made mistakes, right? Even though everything looks nice on breadboard, when you get the PCB, something might not be working. So even though it is little costly, I'd suggest you that the partner whom you have worked with for making the PCB design, you give them the order of fabricating this PCB. So the trick here is to choose your partner. You can choose Embetronics. They're a great place in Bangalore, awesome services, or you can choose Energy Cloud. You have this QR code, you can just scan it, their entire address is there, awesome people. They all provide you good guidelines, right? Let's say you are working on Arduino platform. So these guys, they know whether it is good or not. They'll ask you your preferable cost, your size, they'll guide you in selecting the LEDs. Everything is so critical. You have the horizontal LEDs, vertical LEDs, almost 10,000 different type of switches. So it's quite difficult. So these people will really guide you to understand your process. That they'll ask you your budget, and ultimately you get what you are basically looking forward for. So I suggest you that you work with one of these partners for both PCB designing and assembling. The assembling process will be a little costly because they'll be assembling it by hand. Now, the advantage with that is, if something is not working, you can always tell them and they'll be modifying it, right? They can make a hook on and around the PCB. They can make some design changes. So you can do that. You can do that till your first version is not really ready. Once you've got that, then the next set of PCBs, you can go for PCB power. This is just a suggestion. If you feel comfortable, if you feel confident enough of your PCB, you can always go for PCB power, right? Having done that, I'd assume that by far now you are well connected with HW Trek and AliExpress. It's time for you to go for the next set, and it's going to be the set of 100, right? Trust me, Shenzhen beats anything on this world hands down. For instance, this PCB of ours cost us about 3,000, roughly 3,000 in India. The same figure cost us about 600 in China. So it's almost like 1/5 of the cost. There is no comparison. There is totally no comparison between this and this, right? Now, it's easy to say that you build a PCB, you go for the design, you produce tens and hundreds. In reality, that's a difficult task. Why is it a difficult task? Is because it requires money. Now, if you're in India, your design and first 10 PCB is literally going to cost you about 1 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees, depending upon the complexity. So in terms of the US valuation, that's going to be about anything between 1,500 US dollar to about 10,000 US dollar. This tape, the 10 PCBs are going to cost you that, right? So you require fund. I suggest you that you start getting the funds at this stage itself. Now, there are various ways you can do that. Speak to the investors, speak to your early customer, try to take some pre-orders, go and attend some hackathons, try to win some hackathons. Try to go and approach some students, ask them if they'd like to do a research on your platform or not. I tell you, there are a lot of, if you're building something really complex, there are always takers. And there were almost 6 research scholars whom we took on board, who paid us to do their research on our platform. And that helped us to fund ourselves into this process. So there are many options. Now, if you are a hardware startup, according to my experience, a lot of people basically don't support you. If you don't have that contact, it's little difficult at this stage for hardware startup, right? So you got to be reaching to investors, but your journey should not stop. Your work should not purely depend upon the investors, and you should actually try to get it to reach to the customer. You got to tell them the big story, right? That I'm building this, give them a picture and tell them whether you are going to buy it or not, sell it in your family, it doesn't matter, hardware product, 5K, sell it to 10 people, you still got 50K, sell it to 10 people. So you got to be really working on this direction. Now, in case if you are meeting to investors, you got to be ready with your pitch deck. You got to be ready with your elevator pitch, and you literally have to build different use cases, right? Yes, you might be thinking that you are building something which might be helpful for the blinds, but you never know. Your industry might be entirely different. When we started, our idea was to build a consumer ECG device. However, turned out that the fintech sector was more interested in our device than the doctors, and turns out that public transport system like Pune are much more interested to get integrated our solutions into their lifts and the elevators. So those are really the use cases we might have never thought of. If you are in my place, even you might not have ever thought of these use cases. So don't be rigid about your use case. Let them come in, build different block diagrams, use cases, pitch deck. And remember, you got to be so sure that everybody looks for an elevator pitch. You got to be concisely being able to define what is the problem and how you are solving it. What is the problem and how you are solving it, right? So it's very essential. It's tremendously essential that you do this. Okay. So let's get back into the presentation once more. I hope I'm not taking too much of your time, because this is a story and I really do not want to hurry up, right? Now, for fundraising, elevator pitch is very important. See, it's very easy to keep on talking about your product for 30 minutes. It's extremely difficult, trust me, to present the same thing in 30 seconds. So when somebody used to ask me at the beginning, what is it that you are doing? What is the problem that you are solving? What is your objective? We used to say, oh, we are making a 3-lead ECG, which is better than Philips ECG, which you can put on your chest and it can give you the, by the time the person used to lose his interest. Now, after this whole process, I can clearly define that we have a multi-parameter 3-lead single-lead ECG system for scalable and affordable rural healthcare linked with fintech, right? And I can explain, because there is no doctors in rural India, a device which can give you blood pressure, blood sugar, heart problem, lung problem, which can detect whether you are a smoker or not. Essentially it is not complex, so anybody can carry it. So your focus should be first to create an elevator pitch, make it very concise, then go for your business plan, however fake it might be, create some investor speech, start speaking with and there are many investment events in India that happens. You are advised to go and meet these investors. For example, we attended a lot of elevator pitch competition. We made a lot of investors, though we did not really get the funding we are looking for, but still we did that. Hackathon is one of the other ways of trying to raise some fund. The people story, even after 3 years, even when there were 10,000 users using people, they did not have this investment. So it's quite okay for hardware startups not to have the investment. You have one more option, which is Kickstarter, but I'm not really quite fond of going to Kickstarter at that early in the stage, because it's not the same what it used to be. That will cost you a lot of money. The Kickstarter campaign itself is going to cost you a lot of money. So try to make the things works at this stage. And once you have built this, then you can go for the next step. The next step is obviously the casing design. Now you have your PCB, right? You have your PCB. You cannot give this PCB to customer, can you? Yes, it's better than this. It looks much better than this, but still you cannot ask somebody to keep it over here and measure his heart, right? You have to enclose it. So how you are going to enclose this? It needs to have an enclosure design, right? And the process is as much painful, if not more, as designing of your PCB. Trust me on that. You know, there is a reason for that. Now, these PCBs are not been machine made, right? So, irrespective of what specification you have in your device, they're not going to be exactly as per the specification, as per your PCB specification. There'll be changes, right? In some PCBs, this will be larger. In some PCBs, this is going to be smaller. I'm holding one more PCB. You know, if I can show you by keeping them on the top of the other, you can possibly see that these PCBs are not really same one light. This light has come forward. So once you have this PCB, your next planning should be to go for the casing design, right? Let's talk about this process of casing design. Let's talk about this process of casing design. Just give me a second. I think the presentation stopped. Okay. So looks like we are into this particular step, and yeah, let's switch back into our slide. So how does this happens is, again, you've got to be looking for a local vendor. There are many 3D printing shops and there are many 3D designers. Don't go for something very flashy, something really big. Look out for vendors, youngsters, the startups, you know, who can work with you, who can give a shape to your vision. For instance, for our product, we work with a place called Make in 3D, which is in JP Nagar, Bangalore, a great place. So these guys, they understand your vision, they work with you. They're also startup like you. So these people, they really want you to succeed because they want to show your story as their success story. You can sit with them, explain them what you expect. So what they're going to do is they're going to take the measurement of your device, and then don't rely on a single model. Build as many models as possible. I mean, you got to speak with them in such a way that you can build a couple of models, 2 to 3 models, validate it, whatever works best for it. You can work with that. So it's the time when you actually give a shape to your product, and this is what it is about. So once you have got this product, so once you've got this product which is perfectly enclosed, you are almost done. Now it's time for you to reach out to people. I've seen many people, right? Even I've seen many people who, even after making this, are extremely reluctant. They feel that it's not, you know, the surface, as you can see, 3D finishing is not very perfect, and you still have to work with some jugaad, which we call in India. Some gaps will be remaining. It's not really perfect. But I've seen many people that even after holding this, they don't want to reach to the customer. They feel that, no, the product isn't really ready. Tell you what, you can actually sell this in India. In India, you don't require to have a CE certification for selling a product. ISO helps. If you can do it, well and good. But you can actually pre-sell it either through your website or go to Amazon, pre-sell it, talk to those people. You have various platforms today from which you can sell this device. You can go to Alibaba, you can sell this. We have sold 24 of these devices and have 71 order of this early stage device. This sucks. I know. I mean, the design, the look, this is not good, but it pays us, right? It gives us a foundation, it gives us a validation that yes, people are looking forward for this. We have 71 pre-orders and coming in, possibly we are having one pre-order in every 2 days. That's a great feeling. When you sell something, you know, the fun is much more than when you build something, because you know that there are people who are ready to pay you for your product or services, right? So you have this, but the problem is that you cannot simply give this to anybody, right? Even after making pretty, you should not give this to anybody. Why? Because this product doesn't remind them about you. This product doesn't tell them about you. This is a stage when you should be positively looking for building your brand, whether you've got an investment or no investment. You've got to be registering yourself as a company, right? You should be creating a brand out of that. And that's what we are going to talk in our next slide. So once you have your product ready, the very next step is going to go for a brand. If you know Photoshop, if you know all this software perfectly, you can do it yourself. I, with my career, have worked with many people who are good at it. So I always prefer to give it to people who are best with it. For instance, I can give you the contact of logo makers. They charge you hardly 1,000 rupees for making a professional logo, 1,000 rupees for making a banner, and if you are doing it too, they charge you about at the max 3,000 rupees. So 3K in India is great enough money. So according to US amount, that comes down to about $50, $45 roughly. You can build a good thing about it. Now, the most important thing right now is that you got to have a brand name, and you got to make sure that the brand name is not being repeated. You got to be creating a brand around it. So all you should do is you should go to GoDaddy, right? You should go to GoDaddy, check for the availability of the domain. Let me assure you, this is again as difficult a task as making the hardware, because you might have to spend night after night finding out a .com domain. It took me about 14 days before I could really find out the LifeVerse, which stands for Life Analytic System, and Aculi Labs Private Limited stuff. So before you actually start building your brand, you got to be registering this domain. You have to make sure that nobody has your brand. Registering the domain hardly costs you 99 rupees. Go for it. I advise you that immediately after you have your product in hand, or if possible simultaneously, go for your domain registration. And obviously the social networks are free. There is no cost in creating an account in Facebook, Twitter, and you got to keep on telling people, right? This is a world where you have to leave digital footprint. You have to keep on telling people about yourselves. That's pretty important. Once you have built that, the next thing is packaging. Don't mess around. Even you cannot give this device to people. How you are going to give this device to somebody? You know, you have to package it somewhere. So plan for your packaging. This device should come with a lot of other stuff, right? Like our ECG device, it requires an electrode, it requires a charging system. So make a branding out of all this stuff, right? So we literally have built our brand. Now don't even think about giving this thing to your customer. Find for a packaging solution, whether it's whiteboard package, something like this, which you can design, which you can get designed, and you have to find out people who can design this, where you can put your device, if you so prefer. Being a medical device, I have always had a soft corner of this bag, so I got them from Noida, Delhi. Delhi is again a great place, Delhi, India, where you can get them really at affordable prices. So what I did was I got these chargers it required chargers. We printed our logos and we pasted these logos on the chargers. These chargers are already CE. We got this entire set, the cables, we got this ECG cables. So we made it an entire set. And imagine, I mean, when you give it as a set to somebody, he sees you, he uses your product and he sees you, he sees your logo, he sees your everything, and that's when you make that's what is very important. So you got to be making the brand, and if you have come to this stage, don't ever bother to think that you are done with the process, right? Let me tell you something. The most critical part of any hardware is the iteration process, because you have already pre-sold it to few of your customers. They'll be telling you, this thing is not working or this would have been better. So you got to be modifying, and you'd also know, because when we are in class 1, the maths that we do, obviously when you go to class 10 it looks silly. The same thing is true. The same thing is true for the product, right? So there is a 100% chance, you have to assume and you have to believe that there is a 100% chance that the PCBs you have made, 100 PCBs, and the branding that you are doing, that is not final, right? There'll be changes in your casing, PCBs. So you got to plan for your version 2. You got to be refining it, and this process should be continued. So once you are really ready with this stage, right? Once you are ready with this step, it's basically all about putting it together, going for the let me come back to the first slide, which will tell you what is the process. Yeah. This is the step. Now you are doing this, all of them together. The next step, when you go for it, when you have a lot of orders or you actually plan to get into the market, you have to create an industrial die, which is again a very costly affair. You have to produce your PCB, firmware, everything you have to automate now. With all possibility, you are burning the code, even in those 100 PCBs from your USB. You have to think about pogo pins, and you have to think about automating the whole process of firmware burning, the whole process of making this automated so that you can produce in volumes of 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, right? You have to think about the scaling. And if you have come to this stage, with all possibility, you have managed some funding or pre-order or the other. Once you get your industrial die and industrial firmware, you got to be applying for the certification. We are still away from this process. And obviously, then you have to push it to the mature market. Okay, so that's pretty much the story of any hardware. It's not extremely difficult. Today, I tried to share my story of how I took this product into mass product, which is pre-production really, and how we are selling. You require a lot of support. You require some monetary support. You require the support of the print media, but the important thing is that you require people for all this. Startups are very difficult process. Nobody is going to go there and get it cracked alone. I believe that the success of a startup has got a lot of things to do with the team than the idea or the product. A good team where the teammates complement each other is extremely important for the success of it. Now, the team doesn't always have to be the core team, right? You got to have a team, but you have to have people who can talk to you, whom you can talk to, who can give you the advices. And ours has been an amazing and fabulous journey. This is a very critical project. There are many components associated with this: software component, artificial intelligence. We got to understand the heart. We got to understand the form factor. We got to understand the the presentation of it. So there are many people basically. So you got to be always open to have somebody as advisor, and you got to be speaking with your friends, sharing your ideas, making them on board, make them feel as if they're part of your project. Okay, some amazing group of people have been part of our journey, and we're really proud of this people. Without this great people, we would not really have V3. This is the team that we have. This is me, my wife Momita, and my other partner Praveen. We really complement each other. I look after the hardware part. I look after the architecture part. Praveen looks after the business part, and Momita pretty much looks after the architecture and building the stuff, the production and all those stuff. And he's our son, who is our fourth virtual member. So coming back to it, now you require people, you require to go to media, you got to be finding people who can write a story about you. Crazy Engineer is probably a very good website. I've been associated with them for a long time. They can always make a story. They can always create a story around you. You have a website called Your Story. You can write, and there are LinkedIn blogs, right? You can write LinkedIn blogs. You can speak with bloggers. They'll be always happy to help you out. You can speak with the reporters of Economic Times. You can speak with the reporters of Times of India. If you're building something crazy, if you're building something amazing, and if there are people, believe me, there are people who take it. For those who are outside India, I really do not have an idea of how you do the print marketing, but I'm sure just like India, you should be having local reporters whom you can find out from LinkedIn and all, who can help you in your journey. And the last but not the least, such a journey, you face a lot of problems and you require visibility, right? One of the best method of getting that visibility is getting the partners. You require to approach some big brands like Intel, Kone, Microsoft, Code Project, whatever, whichever technology you're working with, you got to be reaching them. You got to be telling, boss, we are using your technology. This is great. This is our product. We require visibility. Most of these big companies, they always organize events, right? They organize DevFest, they organize startup events, they organize many such events. So you got to be working with them, cracking a partnership, some kind of, even though you are small. Look, it's not a one-way affair, right? The way you require them, they also require you, right? Because the big companies, big corporations, they are almost like a government organization. To do anything new is quite difficult for them, but they also want to show up the world that their technology is being used. Remember, imagine if there is nobody to work on Watson platform, how Microsoft is going to show, what is the capability of it. So they would also require your support, right? So be confident. If you're building something great, and if you are using any of the technologies of any of the companies, don't worry, just go to the developer relationship of that company and tell them that, boss, we require a visibility, and allow them to be part of the conferences. So this is pretty much what we have followed. There is no heart and soul rule, literally, and you can you can use your own technique possibly. If you are going with this journey, it's really sure that you know your way out. And hardware startup, it's a 2 years journey minimum. It's a 2 years journey. So you have to take 2 years out of your life, have to be really consistent about it. 2 years in the sense from your base to industrial. We are still 6 months away from that. So yes. So it's a very painful journey sometimes, very lonely journey, very difficult journey. You don't have money, nobody is trusting you, nobody is purchasing you, but you have to, keep going in. So you require team, you require partners, and you require that perseverance to help you in your journey. I think that's all for me as far as the main talk is concerned. I'd like to take few questions really, and I'd like to answer them one by one, right? Let me try to just pick a few questions so that everybody can. Somebody in IoT laboratory has asked, also provide your email ID if it is okay for you. Yeah, sure. I'll provide my email ID. You can. And I'll also share my number. You can always. It's been put in the chat window. So if anybody wants to get me connected, I cannot really ensure about the phone, but email I'm always reachable. WhatsApp I'm always reachable. So yeah, you basically have my number. Can you type the website name, please? Walid had asked. I think Sachindra had already answered, www.hwtrade.com. And Justin has already shared the PPT with you, where we have this contacts, so you can scan them. Just have to disable each. Okay. Then the next question. Then the next question is, can we make electronic device 3D printing? Sorry, Chitra, I could not get. Chitra had asked me a question. Can we make electronic device 3D printing? No, Chitra, you don't. You don't get electronic device 3D printing, right? This is the body of the electronic device. This is the cell, right? This is PCB. You have to make this PCB. This is not 3D printed. The PCB is machine printed. It's etched, and then these components have to be placed either using hand or they have to be shouldered. Once you have this PCB, you have to do the casing as 3D printing, because industrial die is pretty expensive, right? So I think that's the answer. You got to be building the PCB, and then you got to be building the casing as 3D printing. No, you don't really print the devices. What are the different certification required before launching the hardware product in India for non-wireless wireless hardware product? Well, to start with, the ISO certification is one which is important. ISI, Indian standard. I mean, ISI is pretty quick. You can get them pretty quick. So I guess that if you have a product, ISI is good to go. But to be very honest, from my experience, there is no heart and soul rule that you should have ISI product, because you are not manufacturing in volume, right? You are producing 10 products, 20 products, 30 products at this stage. We're talking about this stage, right? So I don't think that pre-sales require any certification. We did not require any certification. CE is again a self-certification that's required mainly when you go to US market. FCC is required when you go to US market. But if you have ISI, you can go to India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, all the SAARC countries. ISI is pretty much is accepted, but you always want to go for a certification, because that gives you puts your product separate, and your customers can have faith in them. At the early stage, it's not required, because people who are buying from you, most probably they know you, and you are solving a problem which is very critical for them. So before launching, no, you don't really require Alpha 007. Your question was, what different certification required before launching the hardware product? At this stage, 10 to 100, you don't require any certification at all. From 100 to 1000, you better at least have ISI certification, which is for electrical. There is nothing much. C is not basically required in India, right? See, you can sell in Indian market without CE, but ISI is pretty much important. Are there any contract-based manufacturing in India for hardware products? Yes, there are many contract-based manufacturers. In fact, I know many of them in Bangalore. But when you talk about the manufacturing process, I still feel Shenzhen is the best. Alpha 007, I truly believe Shenzhen beats the Indian manufacturer at this stage, because we are startup companies. It makes always sense. There is an emotional part attached with it, but at the end of the day, it's business. I'm not going to print anything for 2,000 rupees if I can get it made for 600 rupees. Yeah. When you make your own facility, that's different. But for early stage IoT startup, I don't think Indian manufacturing industry is ready to that level really. Can we sell our prototype directly in India? Yes, you can. You can do that. You can always, if you're making a smart watch, you can always sell it to your father one, your friend one. You can do that, and you can put it in your website. You can sell it through WhatsApp, your friends, families, people. You can market it through Facebook. There is no such thing that they cannot. You have to clearly state that it's an early stage product, right? And you don't have a certification. Nobody is going to put you in jail for that. Where did you make that black colored design case and covers in India? We really, as I said, there are many printers available, the designers available. We work with Make in 3D, and they made it really simple for us. That is as far as the 3D case is concerned. How did you branded the charger and the cables? Well, Alpha, that's again simple. You got to find out the charger where there is no logo. And you got to be printing your stickers and paste it on the top of the stickers. That's pretty easy. We can sell the IoT prototype directly without any certification in India. Yes, you can do that. Try connecting with a local partner in India and have them sell your product. I think already IoT Laboratory is doing a great work answering a lot of my questions. So, okay. I guess that's it from me. What are the different certifications required before launching the hardware product in India? For non-wireless and wireless admin, I think this is a question from Justin. As I've said, don't really, India is not really a certification hungry country, right? So you make a great product, specifically if it helps people, nobody asks you, and when you are scaling up, you require. Are there any contract-based? This is being answered. Any other questions? I think okay. I think it's been. I have a prototype ready. How can I convert it into product like PCB designing, 3D, mobile application, etc. Alpha, I think you should. I mean, today's presentation should be giving you some help. It's all about connecting with the people, finding out the right people. That's the case, right? You cannot build everything. So a good entrepreneur or a good startup owner is not somebody who is a god, right? A startup success is not depending upon somebody who can do it all by himself. But if you are a person who can find those people easily, then your startup has a chance. At the end of the day, it's how you talk to people, how you get them into your team, how you make them feel good, make them feel proud of something big. And you don't know. I mean, if you inspire people, you get always the best thing out of that. Your product doesn't seem to have a display. Was it too much complexity to add? No. Sunny has got a nice little question. Your product doesn't seem to have a display. Was it too complex to add? No, Sunny. In fact, we started with a display, and when we reached to people, we realized that our market was mainly around a mobile app, which bridges the hardware and the software, and the display were pretty small considering the form factor. So I had to basically put a very small display that would not have revealed much of the information, right? So we decided against a display because we had a lot of use cases. We are doing a lot of pilot with players, specifically badminton players, where there'd be most of the time keeping it with them. We are doing some pilots with pregnant women. With one of our use cases, fetal ECG, where we expect a great algorithm. Our algorithm is already working, without ultrasound. The working woman, they can simply put it at any time and get the ECGs done. So in most of the use cases that we have, person really doesn't look for any display. He or she sees it in mobile. So we dump the display thing. You mentioned next. Sean has asked, great presentation. After making the prototype, you mentioned the next step is PCB design. Could you share some more on the PCB design process? How did you contact them, and how did you communicate your vision, your idea with them? So Sean has a great questions that can you tell us how did you actually find out the people who can make PCB? Okay, Sean. Now here is the deal. Basically, what I did was I Google searched. I spoke to about 30 odd people whom I felt was good. There is a site called Guru.com, right? There is a site called Guru.com where there are many vendors available. So you can go to this Guru.com and find out who are your nearby vendors. This is a site where around the world people comes in and provides their services. So you often end up in getting in finding people who are really awesome, so you can speak with them. So I identified about 30 odd people. I went and as a team we went and meet to almost like 10-15 with them. Then we could, I mean, it's the instinct, right? Once you speak with 10 persons, you know whom you are going to work with. We don't take decisions based on the logic, right? It's an instinct. So once you speak with this many people, you know whom to go with whom your wavelength is matching and who can be part of this journey. Give them always give them the due credit, even if they have charged. But at the end of the day, you have to think that, you know, the same thing. If instead of this guy did not trust me, we have a person who has designed the very famous, I do not know about US guys whether they know the cricket or not, but Indian people definitely know the new Moonwalker helmet of Dinesh Karthik. We have that guy on board for our commercial design. Now he's going to charge us for the design itself about about $500,000 US. Yes, it's $500,000 US for that design itself. And probably for the PCBs, I have paid almost nothing. So these guys, their startup probably not that big. So give them due credit. Try to help them also. You know, speak about them wherever you can. I think that's the process you should be knowing. For you, final product, you didn't use Arduino 101 Intel Curie module. No alpha, I did not use. As I said, I'm pretty fond of STM microcontroller guys right now, and I'm very happy with STM microcontroller. And this is not the only product. We have a couple of more products which are there. Almost all the products we are shifting it to STM microcontroller. Even if you open Amazon products, right, Amazon Echo and all, you'll understand why it is so medical devices and all, because they're not costly. They don't put any royalty on you. Yes, this is a good question. I forgot to mention. You know, when you select these microcontrollers, go to digikey.com. Let me type it. Key.com. And always try to find out their actual cost, you know, how much they cost and whether there is any royalty associated with your product or not. You don't want to really give out 5% of the profit margin to just a microcontroller provider. So MSP 430, STM32, I prefer STM32 for this reason. Could you share, Sean had also asked, could you share more on some setbacks you faced in getting your product to this stage and how did you overcome them? Yeah, Sean, that's a great question. I mean, see, I run a company called Integrated Ideas, which fortunately gives me enough to feed me and my family. It happened when we started. Really, it was not really a planned idea. I started building some software stack. I started with software stack, building some AI, participated in some hackathon. And slowly after I won that hackathon, it was Code Healthy Dev Fest where I won it, and I slowly thought that, you know, it's time that we should get into the market. My plan was never to build a hardware circuit, trust me. All I wanted to do is I wanted to take a Chinese device which is already in the market, which captures ECG, take its data, put it into our analytic platform and build a software stack. Then I realized that, you know, once we do that, we don't have really the control that we want. We want many signal processing at the very core level. For example, extraction of the respiratory rate from the ECG. That doesn't happen once you do a filtering on the ECG at the device level, right? You cannot extract blood pressure and and blood sugar from ECG if you do not really put some algorithm right there at the device level. So the thought of device came much later. And talking about the drawbacks, hardware startups are tough, man. Go to investors, they'll say, no, we have seen many products which has failed, we are not interested. You go and talk to people, they'll say already thousands of products out there, what you are making, there is always a cost factor. So possibly a hardware startup has to face more negativity, I guess, than the software startup, because in software startup, you're basically behind the servers. You don't care really who is coming in and who is using your product and all. But a hardware startup, you have to go to people to show them your demo device and convince them, right? And when they reject, sometimes it becomes very difficult. And I think the most difficult challenge is that we as a team have learned it. We are very happy when somebody rejects us. We do always ask, why you are rejecting, what is the case, and we try to figure them out. So does Intel charge royalty if you are their microcontroller in our product? Well, I'll not be able to. I'm not authorized enough to answer this question, Alpha. Alpha's question is whether Intel charges any royalty for their product or not. I think you could possibly catch on to somebody from Intel and they'd be in a better position to answer you. But you can always check in DigiKey about the availability of the product and how much it is, and you can search in the net possibly. So I think I've taken a lot of you guys' time, but thanks for how to check whether some MCU manufacturer charges royalty or not. Alpha, you can search it in the DigiKey, and then you can write in every product. They'll be having a customer care email ID. You can write it to them. Any microcontroller solution provider will be too happy. I can tell you from my side that I'm not too sure about Intel and MSP 430, which is another popular one, obviously, from National Instruments. But rest assured, ATMEG is free, STM32 is free, so you can figure it out. You can figure them out. You can always write to them. Okay, no, you don't get the royalty in DigiKeys, but you can see the availability, the costing, and then the DigiKey would be having their authentic product specification, product page PDF file, where you find the manufacturer contact details and all these details. You can contact them personally. Yeah. Okay, so guys, thanks a lot. It's been an amazing. Yeah, you can. Some questions are still coming in, guys. So you can always contact me. My mail ID is there at the chat window. I hope you liked my talk, and I guess I've been able to share my story. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach back. Before I start, I really would like to thank Grace and Wendy, especially being such an instrumental in mentoring me for and bonding this Intel Software Innovator team for such a long time. I'd like to thank Justin, who has been so patient with me. Thanks a lot, Justin. Thanks a lot to the team and to everyone who has joined, who has given their time. I wish you all the best. Do check out the rest of the speakers. A lot of them are awesome, and thank you, Intel, once more for giving such a platform for people like us to come and share our stories with you. And definitely do connect with me, guys. I'd like to be connected always. Thank you. Good night to India. Have a nice day to people from US, Australia, and England, and all around the world. Good night. Goodbye. Bye. All the best with your startup.